And I do take every opportunity that comes my way, even if I get nervous and I think, oh God, am I really, could I do it? And I think, do you know what? How do you learn? How do
Yeah.
you better yourself? And it's interesting because, you know, today everything's focused so much on being the best and being the winner and all this. But for me, it is the effort, and it's what you get from life, from trying things. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Oh, it's so great to be able to speak to you after all this time.
Wow, you look amazing.
Thank you, you too.
I still remember when you used to do those wonderful South African recipes,
Oh,
your different pies and things. You used to give them to Suzanne, and then
yeah.
Suzanne used to give them to me. I used to take them home. That used to be our evening meal.
Oh, really?
Fantastic. How
No,
is
but
Suzanne?
Suzanne is she's doing very well. She's and Hanu as well. Yeah. So he's also here in Vienna.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Amazing.
wonderful.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
always remember saying to Suzanne many years ago when we were talking about places to go, and quite often I say to students, it's nice to have opportunities to be in some of these major companies, but it's going to be your home, and you
Yeah.
need to be somewhere where you're going to be happy with the environment as well as your job, naturally. And I was so pleased that she decided to go to Vienna because it's such a beautiful, beautiful city.
I
I
know.
danced there, you know, in 1969 because
Really?
in those days we used to have British Week, and
Yeah.
we had a member of the royal family. It was normally Princess Alexandra, and she
Mm.
would join us. And we did a British Week in Vienna. We did one in Brussels, and we did one in Athens.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was. Everything was British. You know,
Mm.
promoting British products,
Mm.
anything to do with Britain, and of course, you know, having the stamp of the royal family with us. You know, it was quite incredible.
Yeah.
But I loved it so much. You know, I count myself very lucky. You know,
Mm.
what I've done
Well,
in my life. You know.
yeah, but you've got so amazing work that you've done, and also, I mean, I just know from Suzanne that you made a big impact on her in her training, and yeah, she always refers back to you and things that you've said and taught her. So, teaching, is this something that you enjoy doing?
I love teaching. I must admit, when I was in the company, the last couple of years, I did my teacher's training. And I used to work on a Tuesday and Friday with Nora Roche, who taught at the Royal Ballet School, the lower school mainly. And I mean, she taught me from the age of 12, believe it or not, when I went to White Lodge. And then I went back to her when I was 29. So I had the best of both worlds, you know, as a pupil and as a teacher. And so I used to do all my Takeshi work on a Tuesday and Friday, and I was still able to demonstrate, which was good because I could put it in my body. But while I was in the company, I always remember Michael Soames. You know, he was a great repetitor and danced with Margot, as you know. And he used to call me Madame Takeshi.
Really?
Yeah, and he used to say, I used to watch rehearsals, and he'd say, Madame Takeshi, he said, can you say anything that you want to say? And I thought, oh God, you know, I'm still quite young, you know. So I said, well, if they don't mind, you know, I would never interfere with anyone, but if they don't mind me saying, you know, I did have a good eye, at least I thought I did. And he'd say, well, say you're a bit young, say it. And then he would kind of wink to agree with me. Then I
Really?
gave company bars. I used to give company bars in the crush bar and the pit lobby. So it all helped. And then several people said to me, well, I think you're going to be a really good teacher. And then when I left the Royal Ballet Company in 1981, I was given the chance to go to Northern Ballet to become their ballet mistress. So
Oh,
I
okay.
worked with Robert de Warren, and I was in Manchester for over a year, and then I got really ill, and then I came back to London. In fact, I nearly lost my life, but that's another story. I don't really want to talk about that, but I'm very lucky to be here. And I think this, when you in your life, when you're close to a place like that where you know you might not last much longer. You look at things in a different perspective. You know, I've always been a positive thinking person, and my mother brought me up to be very positive, but I would always sway on that side as to people. Anything that was negative, I would just kind of throw out, because life is so short. And my mum used to say to me, very true, and I say to my students actually, you know, your life is not a rehearsal. And I know this sounds a bit cynical, but she used to say, "And you're longer dead, dear." And you know, that was her upbringing, you know. But I've made the most of that. And I do take every opportunity that comes my way, even if I get nervous and I think, "Oh God, could I do it?" And I think, do you know what? How do you learn? How do you better yourself? And it is interesting because, you know, today everything's focused so much on being the best and being the winner and all this. But for me, it is the effort, and it's what you get from life, from trying things. And sometimes being a failure, if you call it failure, I think that's a nasty word, it can actually make you really strong, because you just weigh up the pros and cons. You think, you know what, I've learned from this, and that's going to take me down another path. You've always got choices in your life. And I think as long as you're sensible and you think things through, you normally do the right one. Your gut instinct, you know. But I've been very lucky.
Yeah, and you're so right about this, because also I think in ballet training, there's such a great pressure on the young children to achieve so much in a very short period of time, and to have that balance is so important for them.
Yeah, and I think also, Petra, I can remember my mother never put that pressure on me. She just used to say to me, "Enjoy what you do. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And if things work well for you, that's good. But not to harper on, you know, I've got to be there. You know, life is a journey, not a destination. And It's on your journey that you learn so much. I mean, look at me. You know, I retired from the Royal Ballet School, and I thought, oh my God, you know, I'm probably not allowed to say it if you're interviewing me, but I'm on the other side of 70, let's put it that way, you know. And
I can't believe that.
Yeah, well, I am. And you might say, oh, well, it's time to, you know, take life a bit easier. Do you know, I've had more work offered to me since leaving the school than ever before in my life. It's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm actually booked right up to 2024 at the moment, and I'm still being asked.
Incredible.
I think it is incredible. I mean, I love it. I love it, and I do. I love what I do. I love being with people. I love teaching children. I love getting to know people. Like I said, you've only got one life, so you know, live it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic. I've just come back from Amsterdam. I met up with two former students there that you may know, Connie Voles and Davi Ramos, who's going to be taking the lead in Swan Lake, Siegfried, very soon. Lovely young lad, very humble background, very appreciative of whatever's given to him. And of course, Connie as well, exactly the same. I taught at White Lodge and then at the upper school. And it was just lovely that they gave up their time to come and see me. You know, I thought that.
But
you know, they didn't have to.
Yeah,
that
shows. Yeah, but that shows the impact that you've made on your students. And I mean, I know that what you have done for Suzanne. So I just know that you have that, and you always kept that balance, you know, in the class as well, and speaking to them and giving them the idea of this. I think this reality of it's not the life, you know, it's not your whole life. It has to have that balance.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And to give them that ownership too, when you're teaching them in class, you know, that you never take away those things, because everyone's on a different journey. Like we say, they all learn at a different pace. Some people learn very fast, some people are a bit slower. You've got to give them time to mature, to talk, I think it was very important. I had a well, I've had great teachers, I have, but I always remember Nancy Kilgore, who also taught at White Lodge and the upper school, wonderful, wonderful teacher. And she said to me once, I do such a lot of my teaching, Anita, outside the classroom.
Really?
Now, I know
No.
things have changed now. We do live in a different world and we have to be careful, with child protection and safeguarding. But I think where it's possible, you should talk to kids. You should, what are their interests? What makes them tick? You're teaching a person. You're not teaching just somebody in class doing a plie and a tendu. There's a person behind this. And it's very important to connect with that person. Find out everything you can about them. That's what I think is important.
I know exactly what you mean. And my grandfather was a headmaster of a school, and he always used to say that if you work with children, and you make a mistake, it's not something you can throw in the dustbin. Like if you do paperwork and you make a mistake, you just throw it away and start over. If you're working with children, you really have to think and be conscious of their personalities and them as human beings.
Also, you learn a lot from them, don't you? I mean, I'm the first one to say I've made a mistake. I mean, I remember last week I was something and I thought, God, that doesn't sound right. And I said to them, I think you know it better than me. And humour, humour is so important.
Yeah.
But yes, always, always, listen, listen to your students, listen to what they have to say. It's so important, and be positive about everything. We live, as we know, the world, is a very sad place at the moment. There's lots and lots of problems, but I still feel that kindness, support, appreciation, doing good for each other still helps. We still believe in it. And you and I both know, I'm old enough to say from my life, you always remember how someone treats you. Exactly. You might forget a combination, but you'll always remember how that person made you feel in that class. And did you come out as though you learnt something without fear and without prejudice and all those things that can destroy somebody. You can make someone and you can destroy them. And just by saying like one word can be very negative, and you can carry that all the way through your life. But I was fortunate that I did have good people around me that did believe in me, that gave me a voice and gave me a platform. And I think that's why I'm still here now.
Yeah, but I want to ask you now about this. You talk about your teachers, and you also now a teacher in this time. Is there a difference, you think, in the way ballet is taught nowadays? That what I'm thinking is it still being taught as an art, a form, or do you think there's so much pressure now on body, on body image, on how high the leg can go, and more the acrobatic side of it, or the gymnastic side of it? I don't know how to call it in a different way, but do you think it's still the same type of way of teaching?
Difficult subject, this one, isn't it? You see, when I was in the company, we did so many story ballets. You wore different costumes. People came in all kind of shapes and sizes. There was personalities. It was very much on your projection. Well, you think of Dame Nanette de Valois, think of her principles, projection out to the audience, musicality, obviously, right at the top there, and a very strong core, your pelvic alignment. But we were all very quick dancers, I think, at that time, and we were able to do that particular choreography. It suited us. Nowadays, we know it's very much on the unitard, which shows the body more, the curves or whatever, and the leg line, the foot line, the turnout. There's more choreography now towards that kind of physique,
okay.
as opposed to my day. In fact, I said to someone the other day, I don't think I would get into a company now,
Really?
because I'm quite small. I would say I was slim, but I wasn't really tiny. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't have flat turnout. I had very good legs and feet, I think. Yes, good feet. And I was very musical, and I had a personality. But I obviously would have suited quite a few companies now with the repertoire they're doing. I think it's a shame in a way. I hope that we do keep the classics. I think it's important. I think the audience still love to go and see Swan Lake, Nutcracker, Giselle. The music, the score is wonderful. To have the costumes, the artistry, the communication between yourself and the audience and your partner. I think sometimes, that can be lacking today, that one just becomes within oneself. In fact, I say sometimes don't dance behind the gauze. You have an audience, you connect with an audience. But I think training has changed. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And it has got very sort of the high legs. Like I said, in some things it's good. I even going back to Ashton when he first did monotones. I mean, there were 3 people in white unitards. And the girl starts off in splits on the floor, and then she's lifted into, a leg where it's, the one is pointing at 12 and the other at 6. But at that time, it suited that particular piece.
Yeah.
But we had other things that we were doing, and we did wear different costumes. So I think the company, we had lots of different types of dancers. We needed character dancers. We needed people that were a little bit more stronger in build, to carry off the role.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I just, ballet is an art. It will always be an art form for me. Call me old-fashioned, but I think it's important to hold on to your heritage as well. And that's what I liked so much about being at the European School of Ballet the last 2 weeks. You can actually feel there is a style, and I'm welcome for my style. From my teacher, Dame Nanette Duval, as you know, was my teacher, and she was the founder of the Royal Ballet. So I still keep what I think my traditional style. And he embraces this, and I think it's great. He will have people from America. He will have people from France and Russia. He has a wonderful contemporary teacher there who worked with Forsyth. And, I think it's great to have all of these things in the melting pot, but you still need to hold on to your identity. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen here also at the Vienna State Ballet with performances, when it's classical works, the audiences really want that. They really enjoy that.
Well, first of all, you've got the music, and I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but, I love music. That's why I wanted to do ballet, because it was the music. I used to put myself in a dark room when I was about 6 and play Sleeping Beauty, and just imagine, I was on that stage flitting around like you do. And maybe some of these modern works, we don't quite connect with the score. It might be too heavy in some ways. Whereas if you've got lovely Tchaikovsky, or look at Manon, I mean, wonderful, wonderful score. Wasn't Kenneth Macmillan clever? Wasn't Ashton clever? Jerome Robbins, Balanchine, all these great, great choreographers. They understood music, they understood score, they were inside the music. And I think that's why, we loved dancing. I mean, I used to love being, on the stage doing Les Noces and Firebird and, Les Biches and all these wonderful, wonderful ballets with these great scores. So I felt, I was very privileged. Plus we had Yehudi Menuhin conduct, plays violin for Swan Lake, the second act. And then Sir Adrian Bolt conducted Enigma Variations. So I had incredible people around me. But for me, I just hope that we keep the classics. I think it's so important. And the musicality
Yeah.
The musicality within the classroom, to actually appreciate the pianist who's playing for you, that it's not going to become a little bit of piped music, in the background. Yes, we must keep this going. We must keep this going.
I actually spoke to a pianist just the other day, a young pianist who plays for Cape Town City Ballet for the ballet class. Yeah, and we were talking about this, and how he had to also get used to the language, the ballet language, and what to do and all, and he was talking about that and how he enjoys doing this work. So yeah, I totally agree with you. But now, Anita, I read also that you were involved in a football club, or that you were involved in training football.
Well, as I said to you, I say yes to everything. Because to me, it's the spice of life, isn't it? The more you do, and I say it to the kids, the more skills you have, the more you're going to be used in your life. People will say, oh, you can do this, you come along and do that, you know what I mean? But it was many years ago, and my other half, he was involved in an American football team. And he said, they were having lots of injuries, and, he couldn't understand it. And and I know that ballet training is the finest in the world. I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah.
And he said, I think we should go along, he said, and, help them. So I said, okay, I'll go. So I was on the pitch, can you believe, with them?
Really?
All these tall men, were about over 6 foot. And of course, one said to me, quite right, he said, oh, you're a little squirt. He said, what are you? So what, hands on the hips, and what are you going to teach us? And I thought, well, do you know what? I always like a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm a resilient person, and I like a challenge. So I thought, right, get the boots off. So got them on the ground, working their abs and everything else. My God, they could walk afterwards, I tell you,
Really?
The muscles that they thought they were using, they weren't.
And
by the end of the day, it was really strange picture, because, in life, one door opens, one shuts and the other opens. Some can slam in your face, don't get me wrong. But again, it's up to you, isn't it, with choices. But from that football match, I met this Marine called Harvey. Oh, gosh, I can't remember his surname. But he was involved with this team. Black guy, and he was doing a TV series called Fat Club, and it was on ITV. This is going back quite a few years, and he obviously liked me and liked my style and my approach, and he was quite forceful, I must admit, because he was a US Marine. And he said, I want you to come along, he said, and help these people. So I went along, and I actually did one of the episodes on TV.
Really?
Called you can't say Fat Club now, but it was done in the right sense. Do you understand? And I got to know him, and that was interesting too. Unfortunately, I couldn't pursue it any further, because I went to the Royal Ballet School, and things are you can't do other things. So I had to put it on hold. But I'm open. If there's somebody out there wants somebody to help them, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I did say to somebody, if I didn't go to the Royal Ballet School, as a teacher, I probably would have asked if I could go to Chelsea Football Club or Liverpool.
Yeah.
Well, if you remember the Brazilian football team many years ago, the one that they won the World Cup, I can't remember the actual year. It was actually a Brazilian ballerina that coached them. Because I know. Yeah, exactly.
But it just shows you. Yeah, it just shows you what ballet, the strength, the body strength.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and how everything's connected through the whole body, and also your mind as well, your mindset, and it's so important, as we know. But no, that was an incredible experience for me. Amazing.
I can imagine, yeah. But you were saying that you are actually a Jaquetti teacher then. So you had that background in Jaquetti, the Jaquetti way of ballet.
When I was at White Lodge under Nora Roche. She was Takeshi. I mean, we had Lawson, we had wonderful, I mean, they were all great teachers, all of them were. And at the end of the day, you don't stand on stage, line inch and so and so, she's Takeshi, she's RAD, what I mean? You're either a good dancer or a bad dancer. And I even remember coming out to South Africa in, 83, and Pamela Crimes, who I stayed with, and she said to me, if you're going to teach Takeshi like that, you can go straight back to where you came from. I thought I'd just done 14 hours on the plane, because it was 14 then. And I thought, God, I've just arrived in Cape Town. And she's just said that to me. I mean, no pressure.
Yeah.
But it was predominantly Takeshi at that time.
Okay.
So I did all my exams with Nora, and also being in the Royal Ballet Company with the influence of Ashton, Sir Frederick Ashton. It was very much the Takeshi style.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And, Ashton always said the Takeshi port de bras, he advised it should be taught daily or studied daily, and I agree. I completely agree. So it kind of went hand in glove with the Royal Ballet style.
Okay.
For me personally.
Well, I saw a very interesting program where they actually showed the physics of Takeshi, how connected it is with actual physics, it's all explained, and how it's actually a natural way of movement.
Yes.
And I found that very interesting, that it's actually scientifically proven that if you use that technique, then the body moves in that way.
Yes. Well, for me, the coordination, physicality, the use of the muscles, to me, it's logical. It's just logical. It just makes sense. And especially when people are coming back from injuries too. I know my last couple of years, teaching at the Royal Ballet School, I would help quite a few of the kids come back into class after an injury, and I would actually do some of the Takeshi work for them. And you could see how much stronger they were, how much more they were on their legs, and just doing that port de bras, as Ashton said, if it's studied every day, you've got everything, your back muscles, the breadth of movement, the shape of the arms, it's incredible. It's an integral part of, like you say, your technique. You put a bra linked to your back, into jumps, into pirouettes, eye focus, the balance through the top of the spine. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I love it, and I still teach it. And I think there is a market for it in the world. And I know even at European School of Ballet, I did quite a few Takeshi-based classes there, and the students loved it. Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but Anita, you are now, seems so busy, and you're touring the world or going all over. Where are you teaching?
Gosh, well, like I said, I've just come back from Amsterdam, which fabulous. Then I'm off to New Zealand on the 3rd of April. And I'm one of the judges at the Alana Haynes competition in Wellington. So that's going to be something. Then I come back. Then I go to Korea, South Korea, to do a competition there in Seoul. And then Romania. And then America. And back to Amsterdam. So my whole year is full. My diary's full. Plus I do coaching. I help individuals. I choreograph.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I choreograph. What else do I do? I don't sing.
Really?
I dance. And I like football.
Oh, okay.
And I back Liverpool.
Oh, okay.
If there's any supporters out there, apparently they did well at the weekend. So.
Oh, really?
I will never, ever say never. I say to all my students, take every opportunity that's given to you, even if it's not the right thing for you now. That will open a door to something else later, because you never know who you're going to meet. Just like when you're given a class and you see that the energy might go down, and you say, but you never know who's going to walk through that door, girls. You never know. And one day, I remember I was at the upper school and I said that very thing. And the eyebrows kind of went, oh,
Yeah.
The door opened, and Kevin O'Hare walked in, and I thought,
Really?
there you go. You can never say never.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but that's true. That's true. And it's also, I think sometimes the children don't realize the time frame, that everything has to happen so quick, but they don't realize that things have a time, and that things happen in a time. So Anita, what are the wishes now for you for the future?
Well, I've just started a book, and it's called A Stone's Throw, which has an unusual title. But the fact why it's called A Stone's Throw is that I was born across the road from the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, not in the police station, but behind the
Okay.
19 Fletcher buildings where the gas lamp is still there. So my whole background, my family came from Covent Garden. My dad worked in Covent Garden Market as a porter. My mum worked in a cigarette factory in Lambert and Butlers, just off Longacre. So I'm a local girl. But the reason why I want to write the book is not just my dancing career in the Royal Ballet School and the Royal Ballet Company, but the fact that I went through so many points in history, joining the company, the Vietnam War, Watergate. I was mugged gunpoint in Houston. We danced in a riot in Brazil. There were so many things. We had the IRA. I remember in New York, Prince Charles, now the King. He came over. We were doing Sleeping Beauty. We had the FBI up in the flyers with their guns. We had to have an escort back to our hotel. And I remember Nancy Reagan at the end of Sleeping Beauty. Marguerite Porter was the Lilac Fairy, and her costume and Nancy, they got caught the bijoux, and suddenly there was an FBI guy there wondering what was happening. There was so many interesting things happening during that period from 1968 to 81 when I left the company. I stayed with Margot in Brazil. I had food poisoning in Sao Paulo. She looked after me for a whole week in her apartment. Amazing woman, incredible. Dancing with Rudolph, incredible. Getting to know all these people very, very well. So many of my students said, Miss Young, why don't you write this down? Because it's important when you're, I'm not going to be around forever, but there'll be things that they would find interesting, reading along the way.
Absolutely.
I'm not a great celebrity, but I do have a story to tell.
Exactly. No, but I think it's so important that you do that.
Yeah, I think so too. And even if it's not published during my lifetime, I have a grandson. He's coming up to 4 years old. You never know. In the future, he might come across and say, oh, look at what my grandma did. Oh, this is interesting reading. Did we know this happened in the 60s? I think it's so important also that we know about this, what you had, the life you had as an artist, and what it was like that time that you were in the company. And you also mentioned previously about the British weeks that you had, and that this is so amazing. In 69, I came up to Vienna, and it was Princess Alexandra. She was our hostess, and so it was all British food products plus the things that we did. I can't remember the actual ballets that we did at that time. Probably the classics, Beauty or something. And then we did one in Athens. We did a British week in Athens, and then we did a British week in Brussels. Okay. So and it was always a royal member of the family to come with us. So that was brilliant. Fantastic. And then we got to know them, especially Princess Alexandra. Got to know her as a person rather than just the royal family there.
Of course. And also that you talk about Margo Fontaine, and that you can tell from your perspective, her, because we also just know what we read, and you've known her as a person.
She was one of the most generous human beings.
Really?
Incredible. I even remember when I was 11 and I danced in Rudolph's very, very first performance in London at Drury Lane Theatre. It was a gala for the RAD. And, he had just defected from the Kirov. Margot was all dressed in her Spectre Le Rose costume. And she came down to the auditorium at the Drury Lane Theatre. We were sitting in the auditorium, the little girls that opened the evening. And she was talking to Ashton. And she kind of clouded our view of the stage. And I remember her.
Really?
And I remember saying to you a while ago in the interview, you never forget how someone made you feel in your life. Now, I was 11. And I'm nearly 73. And I remember her turning around. She looked at me, but I know she was directing it to the girls, all of us.
Yeah.
And said, I'm really sorry, children. I won't be 2 minutes. I just need to have a chat with Sir Frederick Ashton, and I'll be out of your way so you can see the stage clearly.
Really?
I thought, my God, here was a great artist, a great human being who didn't have to say it at all to us, but she did. She took the trouble because that's the kind of person she was. And even my mum wrote her a letter thanking her for looking after me in Brazil. And I thought, I was so embarrassed. But my mum was a mum, bless her heart. And, when I left the company, Margot phoned me at home and she said, I'm holding a little tea party at my brother's apartment in Knightsbridge because his name was Felix. And I'd like you to come to the tea party. And I said to her, I was pregnant at the time with my son. And I said, but I'm nobody, I've left the company. And she said, you are a somebody and I want you to be there. And she greeted me at the door. Me at the door. And I went there and I thought, do you know what? What does it say about a person?
Exactly.
What does it say about a person?
Yeah.
And then funny enough, when I had my hip replacement and I was off for, 4 months, a friend of mine was talking about Dalal Ashgar. Now, Dalal was the lady who brought us out to Brazil in 1973. And they said that Dalal was in town and it would be nice if we all met up. So I went to see Dalal at her hotel in Mayfair. And of course, we hadn't seen each other since I was a dancer in the company. And while we were sitting there, we were talking about Margot. And she said, Anita, she was so fond of you. She looked upon you as like her little sister. And I just burst into tears.
Oh,
as old as I was,
how wonderful.
Then, I just burst into tears. Because obviously she could never say that to me. Times were different then. But that's what she really felt. And when I look upon
and you have
staying with her in the apartment, her asking for me to be at that tea party when I was nothing to do with the company anymore, I was still there.
Anita, you have to write about these things.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
No, really. Sorry. You have to write about this.
Yeah, because for me, love. It's about love.
Exactly.
The true sense of love. You know what I mean? Caring for people. And no matter where you are in society, in life, it's not about your job. It's not about you having some kind of accolade. It's how you are with people. It's how people make you feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you hold on to. You hold on to that. So your time's up.
Yeah.
Always. And that's how I felt about Margot. She didn't have to do any of those things, but she did. She found time. She found time to do it with all her, busy schedule and her life and all her commitments, as you know, but she still found time.
I think it's really important that you write this book. And I think it's important also, I think your students will also, you've had so many students during the time, and I think it's so important that you or that they also read about you and your story. I think it's that would be great. You have to really write that book, and you have to let me know.
Absolutely. I would do a signed copy and present it to you. And
okay.
Suzanne.
Yes.
And
yes.
Suzanne.
That would be that would be amazing.
She was a wonderful student. Incredible. They were great times. I had great times there. Great times.
Yeah, I remember you as her teacher very well. And from the first year that she went to the Royal Ballet, you were there. And she has very fond memories of you, and you've made a real big impact on her. her career as a dancer or a life as a dancer. So thank you very much for that.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I remember the last time we were together was in Russia.
That's right.
And she danced the Rhapsody pas de deux with a lovely boy, Australian boy. And I'm trying to, Evan, I think his name is Evan.
Evan, yeah.
I know just before she was going on, she had a little bit of nerves, like we all do. It was a big gala, you know. And I said to her, I just, calm down, you're going to be fabulous. Just go out there and enjoy it. Embrace, the theatre, the people. It was and she was wonderful. Well, they both were. They were amazing. Yeah. It was such a credit to her and you and to Ashton,
Yeah. But she still remembers that, and she's, I think that was one of the highlights for her, that part of it that she did.
Yeah.
And of course, she knew Evan very well, and I think that also helped.
No, she was incredible. Absolutely superb.
I will tell her you said that.
Yeah, I was out there.
This mean a lot to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the teacher that you were to Suzanne specifically. She always remembers you, and she always talks so fondly about you. So thank you for what you've done for her as well, and what you've meant to her as well.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for this interview.
No, thank you, Anita. This was really, for me, so lovely to talk to you.
Bless you, Petra.
Yeah, thank you, Anita.
Love you, lot.